Hello again, everyone. Welcome to my channel, From Dream to Seed. If you're new here, my name is Jessica, and my channel focuses on helping beginner gardeners. Although not technically winter, it certainly feels like winter in my growing zone of 6B. In fact, we've actually had a few inches of snow already. And while most of my garden is definitely prepped for winter, I'm out harvesting the last little bit of the fall vegetables today. And after that, I'll be prepping these beds for winter. So I thought I would bring you along and show you how I do that. Really quickly, before I show you how I prep my beds for winter, let's talk about why you should prep your beds for winter. And there's three main reasons, and that is to protect your soil, to feed your soil, or to amend your soil. Winter temperatures, rains, and snow can definitely be really hard on soil. In fact, it can lead to erosion and nutrient loss. So there's a couple different ways that we can prevent this. One of the methods you can use is to mulch the soil, and I like to use organic materials like leaves or untreated straw, dried pine needles, because these materials are readily available in my area in the fall. And adding a layer of organic mulch will not only insulate your soil, but it will help protect all those beneficial microbes that are in the soil. And with that organic material, you want to add about 4 to 6 inches. Another method of protecting your soil is to plant a cover crop. Now, this is something you want to plant in the warmer months and have it mature before those first frosts set in. You also want to make sure that you're choosing an annual cover crop for your zone, because you don't want to deal with the roots sending up new shoots come spring. Cover crops are actually something I like to plant on any new beds that I make in the fall, because it introduces some life into that soil. We actually recently did this on a new in-ground bed, and I planted my favorite cover crop of crimson clover. And crimson clover actually has some added benefits, which I'll talk about more in a minute. Now, the rabbits always discover the clover and have kind of mowed it down, but for the most part, the roots will help protect the soil, will keep that soil in place and keep it from running out and eroding into the rest of my yard. Another method of protecting your soil is something called chop and drop. And you want to do this with healthy plants in your garden. And you're basically just cutting the plants off at the base, and with those leaves and stems, you just throw them on top of your garden where they will act as an organic mulch and break down over the winter. And this is actually a growing tip that you can use all growing season. With healthy plants, meaning they're not showing signs of disease, you can actually cut them off at the base and leave the roots in the soil, because those roots will break down and add organic matter. I'm actually going to be doing this with some peas, and as I mentioned, anything in the legume family, crimson clover and peas, have an added benefit, and let me show you. These are roots from peas that I grew this fall in my garden. And if you can see these little pink nodules that are growing on the roots, plants in the legume family like these peas have developed a symbiotic relationship with bacteria. And inside these nodules, bacteria are converting nitrogen from the air into a form that the plants can use. And this is why we call plants from this family nitrogen fixers. So by leaving these roots in the ground, by cutting the plants off at the base, not only am I adding organic material back into the soil, but in some cases I can actually add key nutrients back into the soil as well. Now, you only want to do this with healthy plants, meaning plants that aren't showing signs of disease, because some diseases, especially fungal diseases, can actually linger in the soil. So you don't want to keep roots of diseased plants in the soil where they can just perpetuate the problem. And this brings me to the next part of protecting my beds, which is preventing or helping to stop the spread of disease. If any of your annual plants, meaning your flowers or your vegetables, showed signs of diseases, fungal, bacterial, or viral, you want to completely remove those plants, roots and all, from your garden. Now, with our perennial plants, we may not be able to do this. So for example, I had some red raspberries that had a little bit of a fungal issue over the summer. So what I'm going to do for those is I'm going to clean up any of the leaf litter that's on the ground. I'm going to remove any decayed or very diseased branches, and I'm going to treat them for fungal issues. I usually like to use a copper fungicide in the fall. The second reason that I prep my beds for winter is to feed them, and this kind of goes hand in hand with protecting. Because I'm using things like chopped leaves and straw, these things will break down over the winter and will actually feed the soil, providing organic material and lots of nutrients. Now, you can definitely both protect and feed your soil by adding compost in the fall. However, because I'm not going to be using these beds right away, I prefer to add unfinished composted matter, the leaves and the straw, where they will kind of act like a slow compost over the winter and then be ready to plant in the spring. And I save my finished compost to amend my beds in the spring so I can plant in them right away. The third reason I prep my beds for winter is to amend any deficiencies in my soil. Now, before you add amendments, you want to have your soil professionally tested. And if you're unsure how to do this, I actually made a video explaining how you can have your soil tested. I will link it above here and in the description box below. The reason it's so important to have your soil tested is because we don't want to add unnecessary things to the soil. If your soil is healthy, there's a good chance that it has adequate nutrients. But soil testing can tell you if you have any severe nutrient deficiencies or if your pH is not the optimal level for whatever you're planting. And the reason that I like to add these amendments in the fall is because a lot of them take time to break down into a form that is available to the plants. Two common amendments that I use in my own garden in the fall are rock dust or azomite. This will add trace minerals to the soil. The second is sulfur, and I usually add this around my blueberries. Blueberries love acidic soil. However, the native soil in my area tends to be really alkaline because of all the limestone. So in order to keep those blueberries healthy, I usually have to have an amendment of sulfur once or even twice a year to keep that pH at the best level for those blueberries. And that's it. That's how I prep my beds for winter. Be sure to leave me any questions or comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and follow me on my other social media channels where I post daily videos on helping beginner gardeners. And now I've got to finish getting this garden cleaned up. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.